My brother stole my clients after I built our business from scratch, so I took legal action quietly. Now he's losing everything he ever had. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and I built my consulting business from nothing. When I say nothing, I mean nights eating instant noodles in a one-room apartment, working until 3 a.m. under a flickering desk lamp that buzzed louder than my thoughts. I didn't have investors or mentors, just a used laptop, a stubborn belief that I could build something real, and the kind of hunger that keeps you awake long after exhaustion should win my brother. Ryan was the opposite of me in every way: charismatic, smooth-talking, always surrounded by people who seemed to orbit his confidence. When I first told him about my little consulting startup, he grinned and said, "Man, you're actually doing it. That's impressive." His praise meant something. I'd always looked up to him, even if he never took anything too seriously. At first, it felt like we were building a dream together. He had a gift for conversation, for selling the vision I couldn't always articulate. I handled the strategy, the grind, the analytics, while he handled the handshakes, the smiles, and the promises. Together, we started landing real clients. It finally felt like the years of struggle were paying off. Ryan became the face of the company, which I didn't mind at first. I was just proud we were doing it together, two brothers proving that loyalty could be stronger than any investor's check. But soon, I started noticing little things. In meetings, Ryan would say, "I came up with this pricing model," even though it had been mine. He'd tell clients, "My team is working on it," as if I were just another employee. I brushed it off. Maybe he was just nervous, or maybe it was easier to say I instead of we. But there was a flicker of something in his tone, something that made me uneasy. I didn't know it yet, but that flicker was the spark that would burn everything I built to the ground. At first I told myself I was imagining it. Brothers tease, they step on each other's toes, it's normal, right? But soon, the small things became patterns I couldn't ignore. Ryan started holding client calls without me, claiming he didn't want to bother me while I worked on proposals. When I asked how meetings went, he'd shrug and say, "Don't worry. I handled it." But then I'd notice new contracts signed with his name alone, or invoices with his personal email listed as the contact point. One night, I came home from a 14-hour day, my brain fried from back-to-back deadlines. Ryan was sitting on my couch with a beer in hand, feet up like he owned the place. "Hey," he said casually, "got us another deal today." "Us?" I asked, tossing my bag down. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "Technically through my contact, but it's for the company." Man, chill. Something about the way he said technically made my stomach twist. It wasn't just business either. My friends started calling me, asking why Ryan was introducing himself as the co-founder and CEO. I'd laugh it off, pretending it didn't bother me. "He's just being Ryan," I'd say, even though each time it felt like a tiny betrayal. Still, we were family. Family doesn't fight over titles or credit. That's what I told myself as I stayed up till sunrise, fixing a client's financial model while Ryan posted team success photos on social media with captions like, "Another big win. Hard work pays off." One morning, I checked our shared business account. Ryan had withdrawn $5,000 for marketing, he said when I asked, but I never saw a single ad, email, or invoice. That's when I felt it, the first real crack in our partnership. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about trust, and I could feel mine slipping through my fingers. The next few weeks felt like walking on glass. Every conversation with Ryan had this hidden edge, smiles that didn't reach his eyes, reassurances that sounded more like distractions. I kept telling myself it was just business stress, that once we hit our next milestone, things would smooth out, but they didn't. One afternoon, I met with a longtime client, someone I'd worked with since the early days when I couldn't even afford proper business cards. The meeting started friendly enough, but halfway through, the client leaned in and said, "So, Ryan tells me you're planning to step back soon, focusing on other projects." I froze. "I never said that," I replied. He frowned. "That's strange." Ryan made it sound like the transition was already happening. I left that meeting with my heart pounding. I called Ryan right after. "Why are you telling people I'm stepping back?" I demanded. He laughed like I'd said something ridiculous. "Relax, man. I'm just positioning us better. Clients like stability. It's easier if they think one person's leading by lying." I snapped. He sighed. "You're overreacting again. You're great at what you do, but you're not exactly the face people want to see. I'm helping us. That word US stung. It didn't sound like unity anymore. It sounded like control. That night, I opened my laptop and started combing through our company files. Half the shared folders were locked. Passwords had been changed. Contracts I'd written were missing, replaced with new versions signed only by Ryan. I felt sick. My own brother was slowly cutting me out of the business I'd built from scratch. And the worst part, he was doing it so smoothly that no one outside could tell, but inside, I could feel the foundation crumbling. I just didn't know yet how deep he'd already dug the hole beneath me. After that discovery, I started paying attention to every little detail: emails, invoices, client messages, even calendar invites. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash I couldn't stop. The deeper I looked, the clearer it became. Ryan wasn't just overstepping, he was erasing me. He began scheduling meetings without adding me, forwarding client updates to his personal email, and even changing the company's LinkedIn page. One morning, I logged in and saw the new tagline, "Founded and led by Ryan Anderson." My name. Gone. I confronted him that night in our shared office. "What the hell is this, Ryan?" I demanded, shoving my phone in his face. He didn't even look surprised. "Man, it's just branding. You're too emotional about this stuff. You do the back-end work. I handle the face of the brand. It's smart business." "That's not branding," I said through clenched teeth. "That's theft." He laughed. "You're acting like I'm stealing your baby. Chill out. You wouldn't have gotten this far without me anyway." Something in me cracked right there. All those years of sleepless nights, of believing that hard work and loyalty meant something, it all felt like a cruel joke. Over the next week, he became even bolder. He took meetings in my absence, started negotiating new partnerships, and moved money around without consulting me. Every time I tried to question him, he had some clever excuse ready. "Just temporary," he'd say. "Just trust me." But trust had turned into poison late one night while scrolling through our business account. I saw a new transaction, $10,000 wired out. The description read, "Consulting contract deposit." But when I called the client listed, they said they'd never made a payment that large. That's when I realized this wasn't mismanagement or miscommunication. Ryan was running a scheme, and I was the mark. The night I discovered that fake transaction, I didn't sleep. I sat there staring at the screen, heart pounding, replaying every memory, every late-night brainstorming session, every time Ryan called me bro, every time I defended him when others warned me he was all charm and no backbone. The truth was finally sinking in. My own brother was stealing from me. The next morning, I walked into the office early, hoping to confront him before anyone else arrived. His jacket was already hanging on the chair. He'd beaten me there, and he was sitting at my desk. My desk. "Morning," he said coolly, not even pretending to look guilty. "What's this?" I asked, tossing the printed bank statement onto the desk. He glanced at it, then shrugged. "Just business. That's my company's account, Ryan. Our company," he corrected sharply. "You think you built this alone? You think clients stick around because of your spreadsheets? They stay because of me." That's when I realized he actually believed it. He'd rewritten the story in his own head so completely that he saw himself as the hero. The argument spiraled fast. "You're lying to clients, forging documents, and moving money that isn't yours." I shouted. "Prove it," he said calmly, leaning back with a smirk. "All the accounts are under my name now. You gave me access, remember? You trusted me?" I felt the air leave my lungs. He was right. I had trusted him completely. And that blind trust had handed him every weapon he needed to destroy me. As I left the office, my hands were shaking. I didn't even know what I was walking away from anymore: a business, a dream, or the last bit of family I thought I had. But one thing was certain: Ryan had declared war, and I was done pretending we were still on the same side. Within a week, everything started to collapse. Clients I'd personally brought in stopped returning my calls. My inbox went quiet. When I finally reached one of them, they sounded awkward. "Ryan told us you were taking a break," one said. "He mentioned you're focusing on personal issues. Hope everything's okay." Personal issues. That was the story he'd spun, that I was unstable, unreliable, burned out. Meanwhile, he was presenting himself as the one keeping the company afloat. I wanted to scream. But instead, I started collecting proof: emails, invoices, contracts, text messages. Every lie he told became a puzzle piece. The problem was, no one wanted to believe me. Ryan was too charming, too convincing. People liked him. Then came the worst blow. I walked into the office one morning and my keycard didn't work. I tried again. Red light. Locked out. I banged on the glass door until one of the junior staffers hesitantly let me in. "Ryan said you weren't coming in anymore," she whispered, eyes wide. "He said, you sold your share?" I felt the world tilt under my feet. "That's a lie," I said. But the staff's nervous glances told me they didn't know what to believe. I marched into the conference room, and there he was, sitting at the head of the table like he'd earned it. "Wow," he said, feigning surprise. "Didn't expect you today. What the hell are you doing, Ryan?" "Running the company," he said smoothly. "Since you've been unreliable, you forged my signature on documents, changed the locks, and lied to our clients. You're not running the company, you're gutting it." He just smiled. "Prove it." That smirk, that same arrogant grin he'd worn since childhood. For the first time, I realized Ryan wasn't just selfish. He was ruthless. And he'd just taken everything I'd ever built. But he had no idea I wasn't done fighting. For days after that confrontation, I felt like a ghost. My phone stopped ringing, my inbox stayed empty, and even mutual friends started going silent. Word was spreading. Ryan had painted me as a paranoid burnout who couldn't handle success. He played his part perfectly: polished LinkedIn posts, photos with clients, and quotes about resilience and leadership. Meanwhile, I was holed up in my apartment, staring at the business that had once been my life, now completely stolen from under me. The real gut punch came when I received an official letter from our bank. Ryan had transferred ownership of the business account, claiming I'd agreed to step down. He'd even used a falsified contract with my digital signature. I remember just staring at the paper, hands trembling, realizing my brother had literally forged me out of existence. I called him one last time. He answered on speaker, his tone casual. "Ryan," I said quietly, "why are you doing this?" He chuckled. "Because I can. You made it easy. You wanted to play CEO, but you never understood people. Business is about control, and you never had any." "You're lying to everyone," I said. "Lying?" He laughed. "I'm rewriting history, and I'm winning." Something broke inside me then, not just anger, but grief, the kind that comes when you realize someone you loved never saw you as family. Just a stepping stone. For the first time in years, I left the city. I packed a single bag, drove out to the coast, and stayed in a small motel overlooking the water. I didn't know what my next move was, only that I needed distance before I drowned in resentment. But as I sat there that night, staring at the waves crashing under the orange glow of the streetlights, I made myself a promise. I wasn't going to let him win. Not like this. I spent 3 days by the coast, barely eating, barely sleeping, just thinking. The sound of waves was the only thing keeping me from losing my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan's smirk, that cold, satisfied look when he said, "Because I can." At first, all I wanted was revenge, to destroy him like he destroyed me. But I knew going head-on wouldn't work. Ryan thrived in chaos. He was too slick, too confident. If I wanted to take him down, I needed to be smarter, quieter. So I started digging. I reached out to old clients, pretending to check in as a former consultant. Most were polite but distant, until one, a longtime partner named Linda, mentioned something strange. "Ryan sent us a new invoice," she said, "double the original rate. He said you approved it before stepping down." "I never stepped down," I told her. There was a pause. Then, "I think you should see something." She forwarded the document, and when I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. Ryan had used my digital signature again, and this time he was billing clients for fake services. He wasn't just lying to me, he was defrauding them. That changed everything. I started gathering every trace of evidence I could: transaction records, emails, text messages, and client statements. I even hired a digital forensics expert to confirm the forged signatures. And when I looked at the folder, I'd compiled a mountain of proof showing how my own brother was running a fraudulent operation. The grief inside me shifted into something else entirely: focus. For the first time in months, I felt in control. Ryan thought he'd buried me, but he didn't realize I'd been building something stronger. A truth he couldn't spin or erase. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Once I had the evidence, I knew I couldn't just confront him again. Not this time. He'd twist my words, gaslight me, and somehow walk away looking like the victim. I needed to make it airtight, documented, undeniable. I started with silence. No calls, no emails. I went completely off the radar. Meanwhile, Ryan kept doing what he did best, showing off. I watched from a distance as he posted new client success stories, tagged himself at conferences, and bragged about expanding the business internationally. Every post, every lie felt like another nail in his own coffin. Then, I reached out to the clients he'd defrauded carefully, one by one. I explained everything, showed proof, the forged contracts, the fake invoices, the bank transfers that didn't match. Most were furious. A few were shocked. One even said, I had a feeling something wasn't right. Within a week, I had 3 formal complaints ready to go. Together, we filed a joint report, not just to the business bureau, but to law enforcement. I knew it would take time, but I wanted him cornered from every side. The next step was personal. I scheduled a meeting under a fake pretense, a potential investor interested in expanding operations. Ryan couldn't resist. The man loved attention. When he walked into that downtown cafe, grinning like a movie star, I almost didn't recognize him. Expensive suit, designer watch, acting like a man who'd already won. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, smirking as he sat down. "I figured we should talk," I replied evenly. "About what? The company you walked away from?" "No," I said, sliding a folder across the table. "About the one you just committed fraud through." He frowned, that first flicker of panic cracking his confidence. "What is this?" "Proof," I said quietly, "and it's already in the hands of people who actually care about the law." For the first time, Ryan didn't have a comeback. Ryan's face drained of color as he opened the folder. I'd never seen him speechless before, not once in my entire life. His hands trembled slightly as he flipped through the pages. Screenshots of emails, client statements, bank transactions, and legal notices already in motion. "You went behind my back," he finally spat, his voice low but shaking. I leaned back in my chair.com for the first time in months. "You went behind mine first. This is family," he snapped. "Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't steal." He tried to laugh it off, the same smug laugh that used to disarm everyone, but it sounded hollow this time. "You think you can destroy me with this? You'll go down to—" "We're partners, not legally," I said. "You made sure of that when you changed all the documents. So this is all yours now." The realization hit him like a punch. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear instead of arrogance. "You wouldn't do this," he whispered. I met his eyes. "You already did." He slammed the folder shut, trying to regain control. "You'll regret this," he said, but the words sounded weak, desperate. I stood up slowly, heart steady. "I already did. Every day I believed you'd change." As I walked out of that cafe, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The storm had already started. By the next week, clients began withdrawing their contracts. Investigators started reaching out, and whispers of Ryan's business misconduct spread faster than wildfire. It was poetic in a way. His need for attention became his downfall. But despite everything, I didn't feel triumphant, just hollow. I'd exposed the truth, but in the process, I'd lost my brother forever. Still, one thing was certain. Ryan would finally have to face the consequences of his own lies. The fallout hit faster than even I expected. Within days, Ryan's empire began to crumble. Clients demanded refunds. Some even threatened lawsuits. The Business Bureau launched a full investigation, and the local news picked up the story. Consulting firm accused of fraudulent billing practices. His name was front and center. I watched from a distance as his perfect image unraveled. His once busy phone went silent. The office he'd stolen from me emptied overnight. Employees started quitting, one after another, leaving behind half-finished projects and unpaid invoices. Ryan tried calling me then dozens of times. I ignored everyone until finally, late one night, Curiosity got the better of me. I answered, "Please," he said before I could speak. His voice sounded broken, panicked, nothing like the confident man who once told me he was rewriting history. "I lost everything," he said. "The company, my accounts, even my apartment. They froze everything." I said nothing. The silence between us was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he continued. "You have to help me. You're my brother." That word brother hit differently now. "I helped you," I said quietly, "for years, and you used every bit of it to destroy me." "It was just business," he pleaded. "No, Ryan," I said, voice steady. "It was betrayal." He started to cry then. I don't think it was guilt, more like fear. He'd built his whole identity around power and perception, and now both were gone. Before hanging up, I told him something I'd waited years to say. "You wanted control. Now you have it over the ruins you created." For the first time, I slept peacefully that night. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped fighting to fix someone who never wanted to change. The investigation concluded, and Ryan was officially charged with fraud and document falsification. When I read the news release, I didn't feel joy, just an overwhelming calm. Justice had done what I couldn't. I rebuilt slowly. From my small apartment, again the same one where it all began. No fancy offices, no fake smiles, just me, my laptop, and a few loyal clients who'd stuck around after learning the truth. I told them I wasn't interested in chasing growth anymore. I just wanted to build something honest, something real. One evening, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Ryan. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Inside was a single page. His handwriting was messy, desperate. He wrote, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I never thought it would end like this. I thought I was smarter. I thought I could control everything. You were the only one who ever believed in me, and I destroyed that." I read it 3 times before setting it down. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger. Just sadness, a quiet kind that sits deep in your chest. I never wrote back. Not because I hated him, but because some things don't need answers. Some endings aren't about revenge. They're about peace now. Every morning when I sit at my desk, I look at an old photo of us, 2 brothers smiling at a small expo booth, back when everything still felt possible. That version of us is gone, but the lesson remains. Trust is a currency more valuable than money. Once you spend it on the wrong person, it's gone forever. Ryan lost everything chasing power. I lost my brother chasing loyalty, but I found something he never did.